Hi, viewers. Today we are going to talk about Salesforce Business Analyst Certification, Part 11. Collaboration with the stakeholders. Given the scenarios, we can look for manage competing priorities to obtain stakeholders' consents. Engaging stakeholders in the requirement gathering stage of the project makes the project more likely to succeed as team or aligned on the vision and delivery strategy. Stakeholders decide which requirement are must have that need to be implemented to accomplish the project business objectives and which would be nice to have. Stakeholders should also participate in scope planning meeting as they must have a good understanding of the agreed scope of work and know what is not included in the development plan. Involving stakeholders in project planning mitigate the risk of scope creep, which happens when requirement outside of the agreed scope are implemented. Stakeholders play a role in balancing the triple constraints that refer to scope, schedule, and cost of the project. Managing project requirement, clarifying project requirement. Project requirement can be divided into must have, nice to have, and general expectation of what the project should deliver. Triple constraints. Triple constraint refers to the scope, schedule, and cost of the project. They must be balanced to keep the project on track. Scope creep. Scope creep happens when requirements and tasks outside of the agreed scope are added to the project work plan. Lack of stakeholders' involvement. Resistance to change, lack of a sense of ownership, and poor communication between stakeholders and the project teams lead to a lack of stakeholders' participation in project delivery. Requesting stakeholders a sign off for project requirement. Requesting sign off soon after requirement elicitation. Stakeholders are more likely to approve those requirements they remember discussing during elicitation meeting. Managing changing requirements. Business analysts must be able to explain the changes applied to project requirements after planning meetings. Clear and adequate information. Information should be provided in a clear, easy to understand format. Organizing additional meetings. Business analysts should be open to organizing meetings to clear up confusions if a lack of understanding of the requirement causes stakeholders to delay their approval of the project. Timely updates. Business analysts should deliver timely progress updates, including approaching deadlines and tasks that must be completed by relevant parties. Managing requirements of obtained sign off. Engaging stakeholders in the requirement gathering process. Engaging stakeholders in the requirement gathering process of the project makes it more likely to succeed as team is aligned on the project vision and delivery. Requirements gathering process. Project stakeholders are consulted during the requirement gathering process of the project to provide their perspective on the objects project must accomplish. Key stakeholders are responsible for explaining the business needs project must fulfill. Registered features, enhancement, and new functionalities are translated into project deliverables and are broken down into actionable tasks. Prioritization of a project's deliverables. Stakeholders prioritize which requirements are essential and must be delivered as a result of the project and which of the nice to have but should be added to scope only if developers capacity is released. Classifying project requirements. Project requirements can be divided into must to have, nice to have, and general expectation of what the project should deliver. Needs are must have the project delivers so that futures function properly and meet business expectation. They must be included in the initial project scope and be delivered with with the highest priority. Wants are nice to have. Desired functionalities that are not essential to the project. Wants can be removed from scope if it becomes too large and can be reintroduced when capacity is released. Expectation. Expectation express the vision of the project and describe the intended future state of the business once the project is completed. Engaging stakeholders in scope planning. Stakeholders participating in the development of the project scope can influence the shape of the project outcomes. Agreeing to the scope of the project. Scope planning is a collaborative effort of key stakeholders and the project team to define what should be accomplished. Team align on project objectives and set boundaries for what is out of scope. All parties must have an understanding of the scope to avoid confusion during delivery. Changes to scope in Agile. Projects delivered using Agile frameworks rely on the iterative approach to project delivery. Elicited requirements can change as more information is discovered and user feedback is gathered, leading to the refinement of the agreed scope. Stakeholders give their initial sign off to approve the scope of work and initiate the project, but delivery team can accommodate changes introduced later on. Scope creep happens when tasks outside of the agreed scope are added to the work plan of the project. Causes of a scope creep. Scope creep can be a result of a poorly defined project scope, a lack of clear vision for the outcome of the project, or miscommunication with the key stakeholders. Work can extend beyond the agreed scope if team members accept additional requests outside of the backlog. Scope creep can happen when tasks that were agreed upon were not properly documented. Agile projects may experience scope creep if they fail to correctly prioritize tasks and not refine the backlog to focus on essential work first. Triple constraint. Triple constraint refer to the scope, schedule, and cost of the project. They must be balanced to keep the project on track. Scope changes to the scope impact the delivery timeline. Schedule must be extended to accommodate new requests. Unplanned tasks consume the project budget as resources are utilized to complete unexpected work. Schedule. Shortening the schedule impact the scope as team are forced to deliver only the essential feature. Extending schedule promote poor planning. It may lead to a budgetary shortfall as more time will be needed than was previously planned. Cost. Budget changes negatively impact the scope and schedule. Cost cut lead to fewer resources and less time to deliver requested feature. Budget increase requires additional planning and can extend the project timeline. Causes of lack of stakeholders' involvement in project planning, resistance to change, lack of sense of ownership, and poor communication between stakeholders and the project team lead to minimal participation of stakeholders in project. Lack of awareness of a project impact. Stakeholders may not get involved in the requirement gathering process of the project because they are not aware of the impact it will have to on the organization. They focus on day-to-day responsibilities and see the project as a distraction. Resistance to change. Stakeholders may be reluctant to support the project out of a concern for how it would impact their job. Project tend to disturb the established ways of working and encourage them members to learn new skills. Lack of a sense of responsibilities, lack of communication about the project responsibilities lead to a lack of sense of ownership. Stakeholders may feel discouraged to participate in requirement elicitation sessions if they do not understand their role in the process. Lack of collaboration with the stakeholders. Successful projects are a result of a team collaborative efforts. Establishing a good work relationship assists the management of the project as individuals tend to treat requirements from people they know with a higher importance. Consideration for requirement requesting stakeholder sign off. Project stakeholders are likely to approve the requirement they understand and those that reflect the general vision of the project. Requesting sign off urgently. Stakeholders are likely to approve requirements they remember discussing during elicitation meetings when they can easily recall the reasoning behind each objective. Missing requirement. If requirement changes after planning meetings or missing requirement are added, business analysts must know the purpose of including them in the scope. Clear information. Stakeholders may be overwhelmed with too detailed or too technical elicitation result. Information should be provided clearly and in an easy to understand format. Additional meeting to keep the project timeline in intent. Business analysts should be open to organizing meeting to clear up any confusion. If stakeholders delay their project approval, timely update. Business analysts can ensure that the stakeholders are engaged in the project by delivering timely updates on its progress, including deadlines and additional tasks. Reason for stakeholders delay on project sign off. Stakeholders may delay the sign off of the project scope. The lack of understanding of project requirement. Stakeholders are likely to sign off requirements they do not understand. Business analysts should use various communication methods, including visual, written, verbal, and non-verbal, to clarify complex point. Concern about cost overrun. Stakeholders may be worried that the scope will exceed the budget of the project. A business analyst should facilitate prioritization sessions where deliverables are classified into must have and nice to have to ensure that the essential are delivered first. Concern for the finality of the scope. Stakeholders may be worried that the proposed scope is final and no changes will be approved later on. Business analyst can point out that agile framework focus on flexibility. If new requirement are necessary, the scope can be reconsidered afterwards. Out of the box and customized solution. Stakeholders may be worried that projects require too much customization. Business analysts can organize workshop to verify if out of the box functionality cover the expected objectives the project must accomplish. We can see some scenarios. Key stakeholders for the Salesforce implementation project at Cosmic Innovation received a document summarizing all requirement gathered by business analysts during the elicitation meeting. They do not understand how some of the gathered requests will aid in achieving the business objective of the project. Additionally, they see that many features require customization, but they had hoped to utilize as many out of the box functionalities as possible. What can project business analyst do to ease the concern of key stakeholders? The solution is business analyst should use a variety of communication methods, including visual, written, and verbal, to explain the reasoning behind each objective. Business analysts must ensure that the information that they share with the stakeholders is not too technical or too detailed, but follow the comprehensible format. Business analysts should address a customization concern by organizing additional meeting to verify if out of the box functionalities cover the intended project output. These are all the links for some other additional resource. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe my channel and like. Thank you.